The Nevada sun beat down mercilessly as Marcus Stone stood beside his rusted pickup truck, squinting at the coordinates scrawled on the back of a yellowed envelope. The desert stretched endlessly in all directions, broken only by weathered rock formations and the occasional Joshua tree reaching toward the cloudless sky. At 34, Marcus had grown accustomed to disappointment, but this inheritance felt like the universe's final cruel joke. Professor Elias Stone's last gift to his favorite nephew, he muttered, kicking at the sand. The irony wasn't lost on him. His uncle had been the brilliant one, the respected researcher with tenure at 3 universities, while Marcus scraped by doing contract archaeology work for museums that could barely afford his modest fees. The envelope contained a single key, ornate and clearly ancient, along with a note in his uncle's spidery handwriting. Marcus, what lies beneath the desert holds more wonder than all the tombs of Egypt. Trust your heart, not your fear. The coordinates will lead you to your destiny. Uncle Elias. Marcus had expected maybe an old cabin or research shack. What he found instead was a seamless metal structure built into the side of a small canyon, virtually invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. The building appeared to be constructed from some kind of brushed steel that reflected the desert heat, with no visible windows or conventional entrance. As he approached the structure, Marcus noticed strange symbols etched along its base, not hieroglyphic or cuneiform, nothing from any ancient civilization he'd studied. They seemed to shimmer in the afternoon light, almost as if they were alive. His fingers traced the markings instinctively, and he felt a subtle vibration beneath his touch, like the building was humming at a frequency just below human hearing. The key fit into what appeared to be a solid wall, revealing a hidden panel that slid away with a soft pneumatic hiss. Marcus stepped inside, and immediately the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Emergency lighting flickered to life, illuminating a corridor that extended deep into the rock face. The walls were lined with equipment he couldn't identify, screens made of what looked like crystallized light, conduits carrying some form of energy that pulsed in gentle waves. "What the hell did you find out here, Uncle Elias?" Marcus whispered, his voice echoing in the narrow space. The corridor opened into a vast circular chamber that took his breath away. Banks of mysterious equipment lined the curved walls, all connected by intricate networks of what appeared to be fiber optic cables, though they glowed with their own inner light. In the center of the room stood a workstation, covered with his uncle's familiar notebooks and journals, their pages filled with diagrams and calculations that made Marcus's head spin. He picked up the most recent journal, dated just 3 months before his uncle's sudden death from a heart attack. The entries spoke of energy signatures, dimensional resonance, and the sleeping guardian. Marcus flipped through pages covered with sketches of the strange symbols he'd seen outside, along with mathematical equations that seemed to blend physics with something that looked almost like ancient mysticism. One entry caught his attention. The chamber responds to human bioelectric fields. I believe it's been waiting, perhaps for centuries. But I lack the courage to activate the final sequence. Perhaps Marcus will be braver than his old uncle. The key will know its rightful bearer. A soft chime echoed through the chamber, and Marcus looked up to see one of the crystalline screens flickering to life. Symbols scrolled across its surface, the same mysterious writing from the walls. But somehow Marcus found he could understand their meaning. Not the individual marks, but their intent, their purpose. Genetic match confirmed. Initiating awakening protocol. Awakening protocol? Marcus backed away from the screen, but it was too late. Throughout the chamber, systems that had been dormant began to hum with increasing intensity. The floor beneath his feet vibrated, and somewhere deep in the rock, he heard the sound of massive machinery coming online. Another screen activated, showing what appeared to be a cross-section of the mountain. Far below the laboratory where he stood, a much larger chamber was highlighted in pulsing blue light. Marcus watched in fascination and growing alarm as energy began flowing through the conduits in the walls, all of it focused downward toward whatever lay in the depths. The original screen now displayed new text: Guardian stasis termination in progress. Bonding ceremony will commence upon arrival in lower sanctum. Guardian? Bonding ceremony? Marcus grabbed his uncle's journal, frantically searching for any mention of what he'd apparently just triggered. He found a folded paper tucked between the last pages, a detailed map of the facility, showing passages he hadn't discovered, leading down to a chamber marked simply as sanctuary. The humming grew louder, and Marcus felt an inexplicable pull toward the back of the laboratory. A section of the wall had slid away, revealing a staircase carved from the living rock. Emergency lighting activated along the walls as he approached, illuminating symbols that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Despite every rational instinct screaming at him to leave, Marcus found himself descending the stairs. The air grew warmer as he went deeper, carrying a strange metallic scent mixed with something floral and utterly foreign. After what felt like hundreds of steps, the staircase opened into a cathedral-sized cavern. Marcus stopped breathing. In the center of the vast space, suspended from the ceiling by chains that seemed to be forged from starlight itself, hung a crystalline pod the size of a small room. The pod pulsed with soft bioluminescent light, and through its translucent walls, Marcus could see a figure floating in what appeared to be some kind of preservation fluid. The figure was unmistakably female, with elegant proportions and delicate features that were hauntingly beautiful despite being clearly non-human. Her skin held an opalescent quality that shifted between pale silver and soft gold, and her hair floated around her face like spun moonlight. She wore what appeared to be ceremonial garments of a fabric that seemed to be woven from captured starlight. As Marcus approached, transfixed, he noticed a console at the base of the pod, covered in the same symbols he'd been seeing throughout the facility. His hand moved toward it, almost involuntarily, drawn by a compulsion he couldn't explain or resist. The moment his fingers touched the console, the cavern erupted in light and sound. The crystalline pod began to descend, its chains retracting into hidden mechanisms in the ceiling. The preservation fluid drained away through concealed vents, and the figure inside began to stir. Marcus stumbled backward, his heart hammering as he realized the magnitude of what he'd just done. The pod split along nearly invisible seams, opening like a flower blooming in fast forward. Mist rolled out, carrying that strange floral scent even stronger now, and the figure within drew her first breath in what could have been centuries. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing irises of the deepest violet Marcus had ever seen, flecked with silver that seemed to move like liquid mercury. She sat up gracefully, her gaze immediately finding his across the cavern. When she smiled, Marcus felt something fundamental shift in his chest, as if his heart had been tuned to a new frequency. She spoke, her voice melodic, but in a language that flowed like music, mixed with the sound of wind through crystal chimes. Yet somehow, impossibly, Marcus understood her meaning if not her words. "At last," she had said, "my guardian has come," as she stepped from the pod, moving with fluid grace despite her long slumber. Marcus realized that his life is predictable, disappointing, thoroughly human life had just taken a turn toward something extraordinary. The key his uncle had left him wasn't just to a building or even to ancient secrets. It was the key to a love story written in the stars themselves. The woman approached him slowly, her bare feet making no sound on the cavern floor. With each step, Marcus felt a tingling sensation spread through his body, not unpleasant, but utterly alien. When she was close enough to touch, she extended one delicate hand, palm up, in what seemed to be a universal gesture of greeting. "I am Serafina," she said, and this time the words came in accented but unmistakable English. "And you, brave guardian, are the one I have waited eons to find?" Marcus stood frozen, as Seraphine's violet eyes studied him with an intensity that seemed to pierce through to his very soul. Her opalescent skin caught the bioluminescent light from the cavern walls, creating patterns that shifted like aurora across her features. When she took his offered hand, a jolt of energy passed between them, not painful, but profoundly intimate, as if their life forces had briefly touched. "Guardian?" Marcus managed, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "I'm not a guardian of anything. I'm just an archaeologist who inherited his uncle's." "Whatever this place is?" Seraphina tilted her head, a gesture that was both alien and endearingly familiar. As their hands remained connected, Marcus felt a warm, tingling sensation spreading up his arm, and with it came flashes of images that weren't his own vast cities of crystal and light, beings of impossible beauty, moving through gardens that floated among the stars. "Your bloodline carries the resonance," she explained, her accent giving her English a musical quality. "The cosmic laws that govern my people recognize you as my destined protector. The bond was sealed the moment you touched the awakening console." "Bond?" Marcus tried to pull his hand away, but found he couldn't, not because she was holding him, but because the connection felt necessary, like trying to stop breathing. "What kind of bond?" Seraphine's expression softened with what might have been sympathy. "I apologize, Marcus Stone. The transition is always difficult for those unfamiliar with ethereal connections. What you feel is the joining of our life essences. Where one goes, the other must follow. You know my name?" "I know everything about you now," she said gently. "Your memories, your desires, your pain, the loneliness you've carried since your parents' death, the way you've always felt like you didn't belong in your own world. The bond reveals all." Marcus's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. Having his deepest thoughts exposed felt like the ultimate violation. "Get out of my head." "I cannot." Seraphina finally released his hand, though the tingling sensation remained. "Nor can you prevent yourself from gradually accessing mine. The connection flows both ways, though it will take time for you to learn to navigate it." Despite his discomfort, Marcus found himself studying her with the same intensity she'd shown him. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but it was an otherworldly beauty that made him acutely aware of his own mortality. Her movements held a fluid grace that suggested she was accustomed to environments without gravity, and when she smiled, her teeth were perfectly white, with just a hint of pearl-like iridescence. "How long have you been?" "Sleeping?" he asked. "By your world's measure of time, approximately 3,000 years. Seraphina moved toward the cavern walls, which began to glow more brightly at her approach. "I am the last of the Valdris bloodline, guardians of the ethereal realm. When my world fell to the void plague, I was sent here to await one who could help me restore the cosmic balance." Marcus followed her, drawn by a compulsion he didn't fully understand. "The ethereal realm?" "A dimension that exists parallel to your physical universe, connected by threads of pure energy." She touched the cavern wall, and symbols appeared beneath her palm, glowing with the same violet light as her eyes. "My people were the keepers of these pathways, ensuring that cosmic forces remained in harmony. Without us, double quotes, the symbols on the wall began moving, forming what looked like a star map that showed entire galaxies going dark, consumed by a spreading void." Marcus watched in fascination and horror as the darkness crept across the celestial display. "The void plague?" he whispered. "A cosmic cancer that devours worlds, dimensions, realities themselves." Seraphine's voice carried the weight of unimaginable loss. "It has already consumed 17 galaxies in your local cluster. Without a guardian to restore the ethereal pathways, it will eventually reach Earth." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. "You're saying the fate of humanity depends on us? On you?" she corrected, turning to face him. "I am merely the instrument. A guardian provides the will, the courage, the life force necessary to activate the restoration protocols. Her expression grew tender. I know this is overwhelming, Marcus. Your uncle spent decades studying these prophecies, preparing the way for your arrival. Marcus sank onto a natural stone outcropping, his mind reeling. Uncle Elias knew? He knew all this would happen? He was a brilliant man, but he lacked the specific genetic markers necessary for the bonding. Serafina sat beside him, careful to maintain just enough distance that the tingling sensation remained pleasant rather than overwhelming. Your lineage carries traces of an ancient connection. Your ancestors encountered my people millennia ago, leaving resonance patterns in your DNA that would awaken when exposed to our technology. So I was genetically predestined to be your... What? Companion? Slave? Seraphine's violet eyes flashed with something that might have been hurt. Not a slave, Marcus. A partner. The bond between a guardian and their ethereal charge is the deepest form of connection my people know. It transcends physical attraction, emotional attachment, even love as your species understands it. Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks at the implications. I didn't ask for any of this. No, she agreed sadly. And I have been imprisoned in stasis, dreaming of freedom I might never achieve. Neither of us chose our circumstances, but perhaps we can choose how we respond to them. She stood and moved toward another section of the cavern wall, which responded to her proximity by revealing a hidden alcove. Inside, Marcus glimpsed what appeared to be additional equipment, including something that looked disturbingly like a crystalline cocoon sized for a human. What is that? He asked, though part of him already suspected. Your preparation chamber, Serafina replied matter-of-factly. The bond requires your human physiology to be gradually enhanced to withstand ethereal energies. The process is intimate, but not unpleasant. Marcus backed away from the alcove. Enhanced how? Increased cellular resilience, expanded neural capacity, the ability to perceive and manipulate cosmic forces. She turned to him with an expression of infinite patience. Think of it as evolution accelerated. You will remain essentially human, but with capabilities that will allow you to survive in the ethereal realm. And if I refuse? Seraphine's composure cracked slightly, revealing vulnerability beneath her serene exterior. Then we both remain trapped on this world, while the void plague continues its advance. Your planet has perhaps 50 years before it reaches this solar system. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Marcus like a physical force. He thought of everyone he'd ever known, every human being going about their lives completely unaware that cosmic forces were converging on their extinction. Then he looked at Serafina, this impossible, beautiful being who had waited 3,000 years for someone to help her save not just Earth, but entire dimensions. The preparation process, he said finally. How long does it take? Hope flickered in her violet eyes. 7 days for the initial enhancement. Full integration with ethereal energies requires several months, but we can begin the restoration work before then. Marcus moved closer to the preparation chamber, studying its crystalline interior. The material seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, and he could swear he heard something like music emanating from its depths. Will I still be me? Enhanced, but essentially unchanged. Serafina joined him at the alcove. The bond ensures that your core personality remains intact. If anything, you will become more yourself than you've ever been. She reached out tentatively, and when Marcus didn't pull away, she cupped his face in her hands. Her skin was warm and impossibly soft, and where she touched him, he felt that same tingling energy, but stronger now, almost intoxicating. I have dreamed of you for 3 millennia, she whispered, her violet eyes searching his. Not your face or your name, but your essence. The guardian who would be brave enough to join with me, compassionate enough to care about worlds he's never seen, strong enough to bear the weight of cosmic responsibility. Marcus found himself leaning into her touch, drawn by forces he didn't understand, but no longer wanted to resist. "Serafina, I know," she said softly. "The bond reveals what we try to hide from ourselves. You feel it too, this connection that goes beyond mere attraction. It is written in the stars themselves." When she kissed him, Marcus understood that his old life was truly over. The touch of her lips sent cascades of energy through his body, carrying with it glimpses of the cosmos beyond Earth's atmosphere. He saw nebulae that sang in harmonious frequencies, worlds where beings of pure light danced through crystal forests, love stories that spanned entire galaxies. When they finally separated, both were breathing heavily, and Marcus realized that the tingling sensation had spread throughout his entire body. He felt more alive than ever before, as if he'd been seeing the world through dirty glass, and someone had finally cleaned it. "The first phase of bonding is complete," Serafina murmured against his lips. "Your cellular structure is already beginning to adapt." Marcus looked at his hands and was startled to see his skin had taken on a subtle luminescence, faint but unmistakable. "It's really happening." "Yes," she said, smiling with genuine joy for the first time since her awakening. "And now, my guardian, we must prepare for the journey ahead. There is much to do, and the cosmos will not wait for us to be ready." As Serafina led him deeper into the hidden chambers of the ancient facility, Marcus realized that his uncle's final gift hadn't just been an inheritance, it had been a destiny. And despite the fear and uncertainty that lay ahead, he found himself looking forward to discovering what love could become when it was written in the very fabric of the universe itself. 3 days had passed since Marcus entered the preparation chamber, and the changes in his body were becoming impossible to ignore. The subtle luminescence beneath his skin had grown stronger, and he could now perceive energy patterns invisible to normal human vision. The cavern walls pulsed with life, revealing networks of power that flowed like arteries through the mountain itself. But it was the changes in his connection with Serafina that truly amazed him. What had begun as brief flashes of shared sensation had evolved into something far more profound. He could feel her emotions as clearly as his own, sense her presence even when she was in another chamber, and sometimes their thoughts seemed to merge so completely that he forgot where he ended and she began. "The integration is proceeding faster than expected," Serafina observed as she monitored his vital signs on one of the crystalline displays. She wore different garments, now flowing robes of a fabric that seemed to be woven from captured starlight, which she had materialized from the facility's matter converters. "Your human adaptability is remarkable," Marcus stretched, marveling at how strong and energetic he felt, despite the profound changes occurring at his cellular level. "Is that good or bad?" "Very good." She turned from the display, her violet eyes warm with affection. "It means we can begin exploring the deeper chambers sooner than anticipated. There is something I must show you, something that will help you understand not just my mission, but why the cosmos brought us together." She led him through passages he hadn't seen before, deeper into the mountain than even the main cavern. The walls here were different, carved with symbols that seemed to tell a story in flowing artistic panels. As they walked, Marcus found he could understand some of the meanings, his enhanced perception translating the alien script. "This is the history of my people," Serafina explained, her hand trailing along the carved walls. "The Valdris were not originally warriors or guardians. We were artists, poets, dancers who celebrated the beauty of existence across all dimensions." The carvings showed beings of ethereal beauty moving through crystalline cities, their hands weaving patterns in the air that became gardens, sculptures, entire worlds shaped by pure creative will. Marcus paused at one panel that depicted 2 figures entwined in an intimate embrace, their bodies glowing with shared energy that spiraled out to nurture a newborn star. "Love was our greatest art," Serafina said softly, noticing his focus. "Among my people, the bond between souls was considered the most beautiful force in the universe. It could literally create new worlds, birth stars, weave the fabric of reality itself. What happened to them? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew. Seraphine's expression grew distant with grief. The void plague came from beyond our reality, a hunger that devours not just matter and energy, but the very concept of existence. It consumed our homeworld first, then spread through the dimensional pathways my people had created to share our arc with other realms. They reached the end of the passage, where a vast circular chamber opened before them. Unlike the previous spaces, this one was clearly a starship, or what remained of one. The vessel had been integrated into the mountain itself, its organic curves blending seamlessly with the natural rock formations. Bioluminescent veins pulsed through its hull, and Marcus could feel its dormant consciousness stirring in response to Seraphine's presence. "Your ship," he breathed. "Our ship," she corrected, placing her hand on the nearest wall. "She has been waiting as long as I have, dreaming of the stars." The ship responded to her touch, lights flickering to life throughout its interior. Marcus gasped as he realized the true scale of the vessel. It extended far deeper into the mountain than should have been possible, its chambers folding through dimensions that bent the laws of physics. Through transparent walls, he caught glimpses of gardens where impossible flowers bloomed in zero gravity, libraries containing the collected knowledge of vanished civilizations, and chambers that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. "She's alive," Marcus said with wonder, feeling the ship's consciousness brush against his enhanced awareness like a gentle caress. "All Valdris vessels are living beings," Seraphina explained. "They are born from the union of two guardian souls, shaped by their love and purpose. This ship, her name is Lumina, was created by myself, and ... double quotes." She paused, pain flickering across her features. "Your partner," Marcus said gently, the knowledge flowing through their bond. Seraphina nodded, her hand still touching the ship's wall. "Demon Korthik. We were soul bonded for nearly a millennium before the plague came. Lumina was to be our gift to the cosmos, a vessel capable of traveling between dimensions, spreading beauty and love throughout the universe." Marcus felt a stab of something uncomfortably like jealousy, followed immediately by guilt. How could he be jealous of someone who had died 3,000 years ago? But through their bond, he sensed that Seraphine's pain was more complex than simple grief. "He didn't die in the plague, did he?" Marcus asked. Seraphina closed her eyes, and through their connection, Marcus experienced a flood of memories not his own. He saw Demon as Seraphina remembered him, tall and powerful, with skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue, eyes like captured galaxies, and a presence that commanded attention from every being in his vicinity. He had been magnificent, charismatic, and utterly devoted to Seraphina, until the plague began to change him. "The void plague doesn't just consume," Seraphina explained, her voice hollow with remembered pain. "It corrupts. It whispers to those touched by its influence, promising power, promising that they can become the ultimate predators instead of prey." Demon. He began to believe that the only way to save our people was to embrace the void, to become something that could fight it on its own terms. The memories continued to flow. Demon growing distant and cold, his beautiful features twisting with an alien hunger. A terrible day when Seraphina realized that the being she loved more than her own existence had become something monstrous. "I had to make a choice," she whispered. "Save him and risk letting the corruption spread, or stop him and lose everything I held dear. I chose duty over love, and I have regretted it every day for 3 millennia." Marcus pulled her into his arms, and she collapsed against his chest, her composed facade finally cracking. Through their bond, he felt the full weight of her grief and guilt, the loneliness of carrying such responsibility for so long. But he also felt something else, a growing warmth that was distinctly different from her memories of Demon. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly, stroking her moonlight hair. And this love, what we have, it's not the same as what you lost. It's something new. Serafina looked up at him, her violet eyes shining with unshed tears. How can you be certain? The bond creates intense feelings, but how do we know what's real and what's simply cosmic programming? Marcus cupped her face in his hands, marveling at how natural the gesture felt. Because I felt it before the bond completed. That first moment I saw you, before I understood what you were, or what any of this meant, I felt something shift inside me. Like I'd been waiting my whole life without knowing what I was waiting for. When he kissed her this time, it was different from their first desperate connection. This kiss was tender, exploratory, full of genuine affection rather than mystical compulsion. Through their bond, Marcus felt Seraphine's surprise at the gentleness of it, so different from the passionate intensity that had characterized her relationship with Demon. I love you, he whispered against her lips, and was startled by how easily the words came. Not because of bonds or destiny or cosmic forces. I love you because you've carried impossible burdens with grace, because you chose duty even when it broke your heart, because you're the bravest person I've ever met. Seraphine's tears finally spilled over, but when she smiled, it was radiant. And I love you because you see beauty in broken things, because you're willing to leave everything you've known for worlds you've never seen, because your soul calls to mine across every barrier the universe could create. Made love that night in the heart of the living ship, surrounded by gardens that bloomed in response to their passion. Luminous consciousness embraced them both, weaving their energies together in patterns of light that spiraled through her halls like captured aurora. Marcus discovered that physical intimacy with an ethereal being was unlike anything in human experience. Not just the joining of bodies, but the complete merger of souls, the sharing of every sensation, memory, and emotion. In the aftermath, as they lay entwined in each other's arms, Marcus felt fundamentally changed. The last barriers between them had dissolved, and he could sense Seraphine's thoughts and feelings as clearly as his own. But rather than feeling like a loss of self, it felt like becoming more complete than he'd ever imagined possible. The ship is responding to our bond, Serafina murmured, her fingers tracing patterns of light across his chest. Lumina recognizes you as her new co-creator. Given time, we could restore her to full functionality. How much time? Marcus asked, though part of him was content to remain exactly where they were for eternity. Months for basic systems, years for full interdimensional capability. She propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face with an expression of wonder. But Marcus, there's something you must understand. Once Lumina is restored, our mission begins in earnest. We'll need to travel to the heart of the Void Plague's influence, to realms where reality itself is breaking down. It will be dangerous beyond anything your world has prepared you for. Marcus pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. Then we'd better make the most of the time we have to prepare. And Serafina? Whatever's waiting out there in the cosmos, we'll face it together. As if responding to their commitment, Lumina pulsed with warm light, her consciousness embracing them both with something that felt remarkably like approval. Through the ship's sensors, Marcus could perceive the vastness of space beyond Earth's atmosphere, filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagination, but he was no longer afraid. With Serafina in his arms, and love flowing between them like a river of starlight, he felt ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them. Their story was just beginning, and it would be written across the cosmos itself. The only shadow on his happiness was a strange disturbance Lumina had detected at the edge of the solar system, something powerful and ancient, moving toward Earth with implacable purpose. But that was a concern for tomorrow. Tonight, there was only love, starlight, and the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. Little did they know that Demon Korthik had finally tracked his lost love across space and time, and he was coming to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his.